The following is produced by 5 Star Productions USA, which is solely responsible for its editorial content.
Nearly half of us live where the air is polluted, but think twice before you hide inside, because the air in your living room can make the smog downtown look good. If scientists can engineer synthetic weapons to fight natural-born killers, could designer drugs hold the key to our future? Vaccinations nearly wiped out several dreaded diseases, but failure to vaccinate could reopen the door to deadly viruses. Complex issues, real solutions. Today on Today's Health.
Take a deep breath before you hear this. 1 out of 3 people in this country live in ozone-polluted areas. And if that's not frightening enough, the air indoors can be many times worse. And you know what? Statistics show that we spend 80% of our time indoors. Hello, I'm Kathleen Sullivan, and this is Today's Health, where we examine the issues that affect your health, well-being, and your quality of life. Sometimes the air we breathe in our own homes can make us sick. But fortunately, you can solve this air pollution problem all by yourself.
Conserve energy. It's an important job for all of us, and many people go to great lengths to make their homes as energy efficient as possible. In addition to cutting their personal utility energy bills, it also helps take a bite out of our current air pollution problems and conserves precious natural resources.
Airtight, energy-efficient homes help improve the planet for everyone. But it's important to remember that while you help clear the air outside, you must also keep a watchful eye on the air inside.
Household chemicals and the use of synthetic materials in construction supplies and home furnishings can release pollutants into the air inside the house. Even naturally occurring common elements can release gases like radon, which also can pose health risks.
Ventilation is a very good way to reduce the contact with irritants inside. By irritants, I would mean tobacco smoke, strong odors, exhaust fumes.
Today's products and building materials aren't the only culprits that may be fouling the air inside your home. Some indoor pollutants have been affecting our health since the day humans decided to take shelter in caves.
Dust, pollen, molds, and fungus probably drove the dinosaurs crazy. And still they're vexing the most fastidious housekeepers. When they build up in the air inside the house, they can transmit diseases, trigger allergies, or simply irritate your skin, eyes, lungs, and sinuses.
Chemical odors, hairsprays, deodorant sprays, fumes, perfumes, are all substances that people are not necessarily allergic to but irritate the respiratory tract, namely the nose, throat and lungs, as well as the mucous membranes, in particular the eyes and skin.
A person's house cleaning habits certainly can have a big impact on keeping that home environment allergy-free.
Some kitchen hoods offer different venting options, and other appliances, like this HEMS high-efficiency microfiltration vacuum cleaner from Singer, include special features to help reduce indoor pollutants. By using a high-efficiency microfilter, it can help contain and remove microscopic particles that become suspended in the air.
People have more problems inside than out because they are in a greater concentration inside, and a person spends much more time inside than outside. Cats are much more likely to cause an allergic response than dogs, but all animals can trigger significant problems.
Filtration is probably good for both irritants and allergens. It's taking suspended particles out of the air. You can do this by putting a high-efficiency filter on your central air conditioning unit. Frequent cleaning with an efficient vacuum cleaner that's going to remove the dust from the air and not put it back into the other side of the room is going to be beneficial.
Ozone, smog, global warming, these air pollution issues may seem like enormous problems that no one person can solve alone. But the air quality that may affect your health the most is right under your roof. And that's the one space where you can make all the difference.
Where do they come from? Why do they do it? And how do you stop them? Let's clear the air about household allergens. Next on Today's Health.
For all of us, radon, household chemicals, and other indoor air pollutants can have a long-term impact on our health. But for some of us, the irritants in the air can trigger an immediate allergic reaction.
Allergies are nothing to sneeze at. Over half of the households in the United States have at least one person who suffers from them. Allergic reactions include watery eyes, runny noses, rashes, itching, and of course, sneezing. When they strike, they can make you miserable.
I could very well go through a couple of boxes of Kleenex in a hay fever season within a week.
When I do get an allergy attack, it's really disruptive in my whole life.
An allergy is an exaggerated response by the immune system to a harmless element in the environment.
Since most of us spend about 80% of our time indoors, the key to avoiding allergic reactions often lies in controlling the air in the rooms you live in. Understanding how irritating substances get in the air may help you keep them out.
I can't very well live in a bubble. So the only thing I can do is keep my house clean by vacuuming, dusting, changing my sheets.
A very important component in keeping the air clean is proper filtration. A clean air filter in the heating and air conditioning systems can help eliminate allergens from the air. Even in a vacuum cleaner, a good filter can help make a significant impact on the air you breathe.
Unfortunately, mites, molds, and fungus are often so small that they can pass right through a conventional vacuum bag and back out into the room. Some vacuum cleaner bag systems now include a microfilter and can hold in microscopic particles, improving the quality of indoor air.
When it comes to allergies, just like all diseases, an ounce of prevention beats a pound of cure. Allergens are uninvited guests in any home, and if you can get rid of these invisible pests, you might also be able to kiss your symptoms goodbye.
And for those people living with allergies, every home can be filled with allergens, pathogens, and irritants lying in wait for their chance to strike. Let's take a closer look now at these minute particles that can cause such major problems.
You may think you're looking at some fantastic creature from outer space, but actually, there may be several billion of these monsters in your living room right this minute. It's a dust mite, magnified several thousand times.
When we take a closer look at household dust, dirt, molds, mildews, and other soils, it's easier to understand why they can have such an enormous impact on our health. The dust mite makes up only a small part of the pathogenic population that makes its home in every nook and cranny of the house.
Dust is not the same thing as dirt.
Dust is actually very different. It is a combination of decomposed particulate matter coming from plant and animal origin, but it incorporates the dust mite, the animal dander, the fabric lint. Mold, mildew, and fungus are actually small, microscopic, non-parasitic fungi.
Molds require water to live. If you don't have water stagnant in your house, then you shouldn't have mold growing.
Many people believe pet fur causes an allergic reaction, but in most cases, the cause of the reaction is actually a protein found in an animal's saliva and skin that gets on the fur while grooming. When that fur comes into contact with a human, the protein stimulates the body to produce antibodies, which results in fluid-producing histamines and other bothersome chemical releases. A weekly bath can wash much of that protein off the fur and reduce the irritation due to a shedding pet. Microscopic particles and ashes from industrial processes can also become airborne and travel great distances. They can make their way from the factory right into your home and sometimes contain toxins that could be injurious if inhaled. What's in your dust varies from one part of the country to another, and even from house to house within the same neighborhood. A look under the microscope can reveal a vast and complex society of toxins, pathogens, allergens, and irritants thriving right under your nose.
There is no way to completely eliminate allergens from indoor air. There are measures that can be taken to minimize the allergen level.
Keeping the humidity low, keeping the temperature cool. It would also mean taking those steps for good ventilation so that we don't get mold growing.
To keep harmful particles out of the air, you have to get them out of your house. Some people think that housework is a thankless job, but by keeping your living area clean, you could possibly be giving yourself the greatest gift of all, good health.
There is no cure. There's nothing more we can do. Dreaded words from helpless doctors. But there's a war to make those words forgotten phrases. And victory may lie in designer drugs when we return on Today's Health.
Have you ever heard of designer drugs? No, they're not from the world of 7th Avenue or the runways of Paris. These drugs are coming from the most advanced techniques in chemistry, biology, and physics. And hopefully, these creations will do more than help us look good. These will keep us alive.
Charles Manson, John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer, some of the most notorious murderers of our times. But combined, their brutal killing sprees add up to only a small fraction of the lives tragically cut short by diseases like cancer and AIDS. The race to stop fatal diseases and viruses requires nearly every high-tech weapon available to pharmaceutical science. Every single day, cancer and AIDS fill more graves and cause more tragedy. The race to stop them rages on, and the advanced weaponry becomes more complex. Creating the drugs to go up against these killers involves an interdisciplinary team of molecular biologists, computational chemists, synthetic chemists, and other specialists. This scientist specializes in drug design using protein X-ray crystallography at Agaron Pharmaceuticals. Advances in these techniques have already brought drugs to fight cancer and AIDS into the FDA testing process. Other drugs for hepatitis C, herpes, arthritis, and other serious diseases may soon follow.
The processes involved in the discovery of drugs at Agaron begin with the selection of a target, and that means the selection of a particular enzyme or protein that is known or implicated in a disease state. And then we use a technique called X-ray crystallography to determine the three-dimensional structure of that target. Using that information, we can use computational techniques to determine what types of molecules would inhibit the activity of that protein.
The actual process may be difficult to understand, but the benefits of positive results will be very apparent. The FDA requires 3 phases of testing before a drug can be approved as both safe and effective. These new synthetic drugs show great promise in the early stages. However, time and further testing must be completed before they become available.
We're always searching for ways in which to speed up the process so that we can get to a treatment for serious disease sooner and thereby address the patients who are waiting for those treatments.
There's a lot of new drugs out that are promising. They're very exciting, and it takes so much time for them to reach us, from the labs to the people that experiment with them, and we don't have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of time.
Agaron's technology has given us at least 2 drugs that will be addressing fatal diseases in the near term. In 1997, we hope to file an NDA for an HIV drug, and perhaps in the same year, a drug to treat cancer as well.
Fighting World War II required an all-out commitment of people, resources, and technology. Today's fatal diseases are no less bloodthirsty than a Hitler, and bringing killers like cancer, AIDS, and hepatitis back under control may take the same will, commitment, and innovation that turned our war effort into victory.
They hurt for a minute, but protect for a lifetime. Vaccines can immunize entire populations against deadly diseases, unless they're not taken. Why are old killers returning for new victims? Stay with us on Today's Health.
Parents look at children with wonder and amazement. But while innocent to the trappings of the world, children are also vulnerable to lethal diseases, which can only be stopped by vaccination. And unfortunately, controversies over vaccinations may be leaving many children exposed.
A child's nursery with no child. Few images evoke more sorrow, pain, and despair. And there's nothing more tragic than to risk a thriving, newborn life to a disease that can be prevented. Fortunately, vaccines have significantly reduced the onslaught of many diseases that used to rob young lives from the cradle or cripple them for life. The names polio, measles, diphtheria, pertussis, and smallpox once struck fear in the hearts of doctors and parents. But since the 60s, a nationwide vaccination program has helped bury those killers in the darker pages of history. Many parents think those diseases are long gone, but that can be a deadly mistake.
The diseases that we prevent with immunizations can cause serious damage and even death, and lots of people are left with long-term disabilities.
Probably the most common killer is probably tetanus, which is a dramatic, very devastating disease that kills up to 50% of people who get it. Haemophilus influenza, Hib, meningitis, at one time killed almost 1,000 children a year.
Although nearly 96% of children receive adequate vaccination by kindergarten, our nation is still falling short of its goal of vaccinating 90% of all children by age 2.
We've seen outbreaks occurring because large numbers of children are sort of congregated together in a building or in a community that aren't vaccinated, and these diseases can have very dramatic outbreaks, epidemics.
I decided not to immunize her, and I was just, they will not put my child at risk.
For the most part, vaccines are extremely safe. There are actually very few real true risks. The most common things that happens after children get vaccines are local reactions, soreness at the place the vaccine was given, or sometimes a little redness, or even some fever. The truly severe reactions are actually very, very rare.
The risk of not vaccinating is getting the disease, and these diseases can be very damaging.
Vaccines are a way to fool the immune system. They're a way to produce immunity against a disease without having to have the risk of the disease itself. Certain cells in the body, in part of the immune system, actually recognize this either dead or weakened virus or bacteria and begin to create defensive material, and we call those things antibodies.
So that means when the real bacteria, the real virus comes along, the antibodies are all there waiting for it. So then what happens is all those antibodies jump onto that virus or bacteria, and that's why we don't get sick.
Properly vaccinating our children may be critical to their very survival, and where their health is concerned, that shot in the leg may help them get started on the right foot.
Most vaccines are very effective and continue to improve because of technology and research. But a vaccine on the shelf does no one any good. Administering the immunizations is often more challenging than developing one.
It's just the little one, not those, right?
It's these two.
What?
Yeah, they don't move. A little bit. That's it. Okay.
Did it hurt?
A little bit.
You can't dispute the numbers. Since vaccines were introduced, the incidence of diphtheria, measles, mumps, pertussis, polio, rubella, and tetanus have dropped nearly 99%. But even with these compelling statistics, parents are choosing not to vaccinate their children or incompletely vaccinating them.
Ultimately, the reason that we try to raise levels as high as we can is not just to chase numbers. It's not just a number thing. It's the issue of preventing disease. Parents sometimes overestimate or are overly afraid of side effects from vaccine.
What we do know is that we'd rather not put things into babies if we didn't have to, but we know that we prevent something worse, which is the natural disease. And the studies tell us that if children don't get the vaccines, they can get the disease and they can have long-term complications from the disease.
Many communities offer outreach services to help raise awareness about proper immunization, especially in medically underserved areas. They often assist parents in getting their children vaccinated.
We hope that providers will take the time to explain that these vaccines are important and we want to protect the children. That it's not a one-time deal, that children do need to come back at least 4 times by the time they're 2 years old.
If parents wait until their child is school age, well, they're already 5 years old, and most of the damage from these diseases, such as measles and pertussis and the meningitis, are actually in the kids below the age of 2. So it's actually critical that children get their immunizations and get them on time.
The recommended childhood immunization schedule lists vaccines due at 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, and 12 months. You could try to remember 2, 4, 6, and 12. Or even better, write it down on a calendar so you won't forget.
Clearly we can do better with vaccines and prevent more disease than we do. But it's not just the United States, it's not just this hemisphere, it really is the entire world.
From 1989 to 1991, many cities experienced major measles outbreaks among young children, resulting in many deaths. Experts fear it could be an omen of future outbreaks of other vaccine-preventable diseases.
Children shouldn't have to suffer with vaccine-preventable diseases. It's just not necessary. These vaccines are excellent products, they're safe, they work very, very well. So the issue really is to try to prevent illness and death from diseases that are easily prevented.
Hopefully, the nation will achieve its goal within the next 5 years. Considering what the alternative could be, a few short-lived cries should be music to our ears.
If we can protect our children from serious illnesses, we can help them get started on the right track and also give the new generation a better chance for a healthy future. You may have heard the saying, no one stands so tall as when they bend down to help a child. I'm Kathleen Sullivan. Join us again next time as we get right to the heart of matters that affect your life on Today's Health.
This has been a presentation of 5 Star Productions USA, which is solely responsible for its editorial content.